Bust it.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Repa FM and Ait Abuja and Ait International. My name is Amecha Nakwe. It's May Day, 1st of May. Every year celebrated across the world as Workers' Day. The plight, welfare, and well-being of the workers are brought to the fore. In Nigeria, they are seriously pursuing a new minimum wage. They want it to be moved from 18,000 naira to 65,000 naira, quantumly, but the labor union say it is well deserved as most of the workers are living under the poverty line. We shall be bringing you into the fray as Eagle Swear in Abuja is getting busier. Comrade Adeboye Bodure is with me in the studio this morning. I called him Comrade because he has been a labor activist and unionist, and this morning is well decked in NLC uniform. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Amishi, today is it's a day of joy. It's also a day of sadness. A day of joy because Nigerian workers are rolling out the drums, joining their counterparts all over the world to celebrate Workers' Day, and we must pay glowing tribute and applaud the initiatives of the two governors in the Second Republic who first declared public holiday in Nigeria, a work-free day to mark the Workers' Day. And I'm specifically referring to the late Alhaji Abubakar Rimi and who was then the governor of Kano State, and Balarabe Musa, who was then the governor of Kaduna State. They were the first to declare May Day in Nigeria to honor Nigerian workers. And the following year, that was 1980, and the following year, 1981, President Shehu Shagari borrowed a leave from them, and then May Day became a public holiday in Nigeria. And so the tradition of celebration since 1980 is also continuing. I'm also talking about that today is also a sad day because it's also brought into the fore the ordeal of workers all over the world. Just yesterday afternoon, 9 journalists were killed in Kabul, Afghanistan capital. There was bomb explosion, and they went there to cover it. And in the course of covering the event, both local and foreign journalists, some of them television journalists, some of them radio, some newspapers, the second bomb exploded, and 9 of them died in the process. That in itself brought into the fore the ordeal of workers all over the world. Are workers fairly treated? Are workers, yes, you pay, there are hazards of the profession, but are workers adequately compensated? How many journalists in Africa are insured in case such incidents like this happen? How many journalists are happy going out to cover war? What becomes of them if anything, if an eventuality happen? And so the safety of workers in workplaces is something that we're supposed to pay attention to in Nigeria. There's work safety laws. Are they being enforced in Nigeria?
And one of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. So not many Nigerians are aware of the fact that if you are injured in the course of your work, especially in the public sector, you deserve some compensation, monetary and otherwise. And it is some of the responsibilities of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. Those that are aware are taking advantage of it. The problem with Nigeria is that many don't seem to be aware of so many benefits that are accruable to them. And it's on this program that we have to really wake up the Nigerian worker to the fact that you can seek compensation if you're injured in the course of the discharge of your responsibilities. Apart from Workers' Day, one development that is dominating headlines is the visit of our president, Muhammad Buhari, to the White House. The Oval Office in Washington, D.C., that's the office of the U.S. President, is everywhere. The statement of the U.S. President that the U.S. is concerned about the killings going on in Nigeria, and they are pledged to cooperate with the Nigerian government to stop them. The accolade the President received on the issue of anti-corruption campaign, which the U.S. President acknowledged, is a word as the Nigerian government is winning. And of course, to the fate of the abducted schoolgirls, especially Leah Sharibu, the lone Dapchi schoolgirl still in Boko Haram captivity. Uju Ejeye is with us in the program this morning.
Amechi, I watched the meeting with the U.S. President, and of course, it is good to know that the U.S. believes that Nigeria is making progress in the war against corruption. And again, it is also good to know that the world is taking notice of the killings in Nigeria, not because I want them to descend on the country, but because at least maybe a little more pressure would help so that the authorities can actually pay more attention to this issue and deal with it decisively, at least bring it down to an appreciable level. One thing I wasn't too happy about, you know that the president of a country is the chief image maker of that country, both economically and politically. I wasn't too happy because it wasn't even the American president that first mentioned that Nigerians were corrupt. It was in the speech of the president, and of course, when he was talking about the fact that Nigeria was has been fighting corruption, then the American president now quipped in and said, "Yes, your country is corrupt, very corrupt." And now that's not something that we would really be happy about, because you don't wash your dirty linen in public. A country is like a family.
That Nigeria is not performing
it's
very
a fact,
well,
but it shouldn't be the
annual ranking of corrupt countries.
It shouldn't be the president that should be the first at every point in time, every time he travels, to mention that Nigerians are corrupt. Remember the fantastically corrupt episode?
Okay. Mustafa Mohammed, some unpleasant stories from Borno State. Grema Terab, our friend, where he's having
gubernatorial aspirant. Actually, it's yesterday we spoke about the return of thuggery, political thuggery, attacked in Edo, attacked in Kaduna, and of course, Borno is also there. What we learned from Borno that a political aspirant organized a political meeting in his house, and as the meeting ended, people were leaving. Talks were allegedly sent to attack those who were leaving, and some ran back into the house. We learned that the talks came in, beat some people, stabbed one person who later died. 5 minutes later, like a movie, the police moved in 2 trucks and carried everybody in that house away, including the housewife who was with her children, a pregnant housewife whom we later learned she lost her pregnancy in the police detention. But we will try and call the Commissioner of Police, Borno State Command, to tell us more. Some observers say those whom the police went and arrested were the victims of the attack, and others were alleging that it was actually arranged, since the question is that how did the Nigerian police became so efficient that 5 minutes after a crisis they can move in and carry everybody. But when we call the Commissioner of Police,
we'll get to find out the details.
Get to find out.
Very disturbing trend.
It's very disturbing.
Not just in Borno.
Yeah.
We mentioned it here, like you rightly said, in Edo State, Senator Rogide demand that raised the issue of the violation of our laws by the president was attacked, and he's alleging that some senior government officials in Edo State are complicit in also in Kaduna, Senator Hunki. And I can tell you, as campaign approaches, I've seen situations where some political parties may not be able to campaign because it could be the main areas support base for the other political party, and it is one thing we really need to nip in the bud ahead of 2019. Ijeoma Osamo, you have comments on that?
Yes, Amechi, I was just thinking in my mind, if towards 2019 we are experiencing this kind of beating attack on political opponents believed to be stronger than you. Because if someone is not stronger than you, you won't plan to attack the person.
I agree with
If that is the kind of election campaigns that we'll be having come 2019, it's not too good for our polity. I think they should talk to themselves. Political party leaders should talk to themselves. Nigeria, we are like brothers and sisters. When election comes, it is not time for us to start fighting each other, because that same person you are attacking may just be a husband to your younger sister or one of your relations. So tomorrow we will sit down and dine together. It's not an opportunity for you to say, because this is a stumbling block, I have to get him out of the way so that I can be there. You might just get there and you won't get it. And on the issue of the president's visit to the US, I like to commend the president yesterday. Amongst all his visits, this is the best. That's for me. The only thing that I see that is not too good, not too palatable, is in the ears of Nigerians, especially somebody like me who is planning to have a strong economic base in the country, is that the president could not use that opportunity to sell Nigerian major products, the crude oil. He couldn't, and he was asked. I was shaking.
And what was his response? That he would not dictate to the U.S. on where they should buy crude oil. At the same spot, the U.S. president said they have succeeded in reaching an agreement to sell in U.S. agricultural products into the country. So, Jaisimi, the president has appeared not to be a good marketer. That's the fact, as it were. But the concern is, what sort of products, agricultural products, would the U.S. be bringing in? Is it grains? Is it wheat? These are products we are making efforts to.
Or is it genetically modified wheat and rice that are controversial even there in the U.S.?
Yes.
I think in the area of the business dealings between Nigeria and the U.S., clearly the balance of trade is not in Nigeria's favor. The facts and the figures are there.
$4 billion for U.S. exports to Nigeria, $2 billion U.S. exports to the U.S.
To the U.S. So basically, I think the president needs to ensure that the members of his team, such as the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Endelema, and the other members of the delegation there, will do a lot of talking to the U.S. We were told that in the area of agro-allied, that there will be a lot of. But I'm also thinking, how about the issue of ranching, the procedure, the way it can be done in Nigeria? America is known as a country which is experienced in ranching. So if that kind of expertise and knowledge is brought down to Nigeria, it will do us a lot of good.
Is Audo part of the delegation? Maybe he'll take our time to visit Texas.
One other thing I want to touch on is that yesterday, concerning security and procurement of military hardware, it's in the news that though we're expecting about 12 Tucano fighter jets from the US, I'm looking at a situation where yesterday at the Tactical Air Command in Makudi, Russia was able to get 2 helicopters in.
Those helicopter gunships.
Yes, those helicopter gunships will be assembled here in Nigeria by Russian engineers. So not too many words. Why didn't Nigeria look in the way of Russia all the while instead of waiting for the US?
Well, they are good with gunships. We have supplies from them before, but we lost some of these gunships as one accident in that Macaulay base and some others during combat operations. But the problems we encountered while getting arms from US, we did not from Russia. So for the helicopters, Russia is a ready market, but for the fighter jets, just like President Trump said yesterday, they manufacture the best in the world, and we really have need for them. Let's take your views, and then we come back for our analysis.
Welcome to the mail segment. I'm Ntenikan Akepu.
I'm Usaitin Yari. Welcome.
We're beginning with a mail from Nze Anosike from Port Harcourt in Rivers State, and he reacts to the president's visit to the U.S. He says, I closely monitored the press briefing between President Buhari and Donald Trump. When the American president was asked about corruption in Nigeria, he responded by saying, Nigeria has massive reputation for corruption. I discussed it with the president and we agreed to do something on it. Another world leader demarcating Nigeria in front of our president. He stood there shaking his head and smiling. What will happen if President Buhari responded to the American president this way? Mr. Trump, yes, we had corruption issues in the past, but currently Nigeria is a wonderful country. My government has done much on the fight and will continue to do so. As you know, Mr. President, corruption is a global thing. There is corruption in every country. Most of the funds looted in the past found their way to your country. So both the receiver and the bringer are corrupt. What will happen if President Buhari answered this way? But again, our president stood there and watched President Trump demarket our country in front of international press. God help Nigeria.
More reactions. Hakeem Kazim in Lagos says, while on his current visit to the US, the president still reiterated that Gaddafi trained and masterminded the herdsmen and militia killings across the country. Did Gaddafi also tell them the location and kind of people to attack? What a blasphemy and thoughtless thing to say. Let us even accept the false and untenable postulation that Gaddafi created the monster. Must we now continue to use that as an excuse, or are we going to wake Gaddafi from the grave in finding lasting solutions to this menace? Instead of the president use the uncommon opportunity to open talks on trade, infrastructural investment, and mass employment possibilities with President Trump, he simply bungled the opportunity. Let Buhari change his mindset and narrative to admit that Boko Haram and herdsmen crises are primarily and essentially domestic problems, which must be tackled as such with appropriate military and communal efforts. And this is where we draw the curtain on the mail segment of Political Platform. Continue to write to us through politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Thank you so much for your mail. So let's quickly take you to the Eagle Square in Abuja, where the Secretary General of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Peter Ozaeso, is joining us via telephone. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Happy midday.
What's the atmosphere like at Eagle Square?
Well, it's building up. I'm sure you can hear the blaring of the announcements behind the scene. We haven't quite kicked off yet. We are waiting for the arrival of the Vice President, who will be representing the President. But workers are out here in their numbers, well turned out in different attires. In the tradition, everything is normal. It's the usual celebration. And we look forward to a successful program, which will consist of addresses and then march past by different industrial unions and other groups. That's what the program is, and we look forward to having it done. The atmosphere is a festive one and a very joyous one.
Beyond the regular programming, the issue of minimum wage is featuring prominently this time around. Labour is asking for 65,000 up from 18,000. Hello, Dr. Ozaeso. Hello, Dr. Ozaeso. Yeah, we'll make efforts to get him back. Deba Bodurin, he has outlined some of the programs that are up. The usual match pass and what have you is going to be, as usual, behavior of activities.
Well, globally, May Day is a day of celebration for workers.
I think we have him again on the line. Hello, Dr. Ozaeso.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, so I wanted you to comment on the issue of the minimum wage. Many are hoping that by September it will be approved. What will it mean to the Nigerian worker? And are you optimistic of achieving that 65,000 you're asking for?
Well, when you ask for a given amount and you go to a table to negotiate, you do not, negotiation is one in which you move and the other party moves. We hope that a reasonable and a living wage will be agreed as the minimum wage, and we have done our calculations, and that's what gave our figure. Our effort is to convince other partners on the table that is a reasonable amount. But we will engage. We are hopeful that within the time frame set, that this matter will be concluded and that workers will, from September, start to enjoy a new minimum wage, which would alleviate some of the suffering many workers are currently going through. Because on the basis of the existing 18,000 minimum wage, many workers do even spend more to go to work than what they then earn at the end of the month. So we are hopeful and we expect that government and all other partners will play their needful role to ensure that the August deadline, which we have agreed on the tripartite table, is actually adhered.
Yeah, comrade, let's look at this issue this way. To use the Chinese common proverb, we seem to be living in interesting times. Time was in this country, particularly when Comrade Hassan Sumanu led the workers to advocate for a new minimum wage during the Second Republic. Some state governments then were even paying more than the federal government. No, I remember specifically Kaduna and Kano State. Now the states are saying,
sorry, comrades.
The noise,
usual bad networks in Nigeria.
No, the noise in Lagos, where he complained about the noise. More and more workers are trooping in. But we have a comrade here in the house with us. I told you earlier.
Well, the question I was asking him was actually, I was trying to find out from him the time in which we live in now. Time was in this country when the pioneer president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Hassan Sumanu, led workers on strike, on agitation, and they succeeded in negotiating for 100 naira. I mean, for as a minimum wage.
Which year was that?
I mean, no, I want to say they negotiated for 1,000 naira.
Okay.
As minimum wage, and then but to find some state governments then, like Lagos under Jakande, like Kaduna under Balarabe Musa, and Kano under Abubakar Rimi, they paid above the federal government minimum wage. They were paying more than the federal government. But now is a situation where the issue of federalism is now coming into being, that they cannot have uniform salary across the country. And these are some of the things that will probably come to play when this issue of minimum wage eventually trashed out, because some of the states are now saying they cannot pay. So something is wrong with our federalism, and this is critically raising the issue of restructuring. States have become so dependent on the government at the center to the extent that they cannot even guarantee salaries for the workers on their payroll. These are critical issues that also need to be addressed as we are addressing this issue of minimum wage.
Beyond what you are even saying, I think the greater crisis goes beyond even demanding for the 65,000. The lack of social security, lack of social infrastructure. Every person buys the water he drinks or uses. At worst, if you have money, you sink a borehole. You buy diesel or petrol to run a generator for, at least for the fan to run, for your refrigerator at home. You maybe hire a megad or pay for vigilante. The roads are bad. You keep repairing your car every day. I think the issue of our demand should also go hand in hand with another demand to the government at both the federal, state, and local government, so that let us have infrastructure. Even the telecoms that we were praising when Obasanjo, the former president, came and gave licenses. Now we cannot even talk very well to the person we wanted to talk to. The NCC has gone to sleep. I'll say it again. The NCC has gone to sleep.
Really gone to sleep?
Yes, because
all the networks are
not working well. Amechi,
all the networks cannot start working at the same time.
Airtel will be good here. Glo and MTN will not be good there. You go to another place, Glo and MTN will be working. Airtel will not be working. The same thing with data. You buy that. Let us look at it holistically. You can give all the money to the civil servant, but by the time they pay children's school fees, hospital bills, the landlords will take their own. Where is the mass housing? I think we need to look at all these things holistically. We can celebrate May Day, beautiful uniform like my colleague here.
Mustafa is talking about the spending power of the worker. I would like to flash back to when salaries were 450 naira a month, that people had higher buying power. They had greater buying power. A bag of rice then was about 2 naira, between 2 and 5 naira. And most things were very, very cheap. And people could afford more with that amount than we can afford right now with 300 or 400,000 at salary. So it is the spending power that really matters. You can give a man 500,000 naira, he would not be able to buy anything with it. And you can give another man 100,000 and he will be able to achieve much with it. So the social infrastructure that he's talking about is very important. And then what Bayo Bodunri said is also very, very important. Let us put these states to work. They have become so lazy, coming cap in hand to Abuja to collect money. We have resources in every nook and cranny of this country. Let us not waste these resources. Let's put the states to task, to put on their thinking caps, come up with ideas, come up with innovations, projects that can generate money, internally generated revenue, instead of the center that they're always rushing to.
And Amechi, I still think the last statement by Uju is something we should encourage other states to do. Because if you talk about the payment of the new minimum wage structure that they are talking about now, the tripartite committee, how many states are viable enough to pay that salary? That's the question. The River State.
Wanted to say, yes. I wanted to borrow Obasanjo's phrase. I laugh for
exactly.
18,000. How many states can afford to pay?
18,000
and there will be an increase.
Wage.
Well,
the River State governor came up with a suggestion. He said states should be allowed to decide how much they can pay, because they need to know their willpower. They need to know their strength, so that they don't keep owing workers. They will just keep running to the federal government to give them bailout funds to pay salaries. And at the end of the day, they don't even use the bailout funds to pay salaries.
I think
they convert it to other things.
Just a couple of days ago, the tripartite committee set up by the federal government
on this minimum wage.
Exactly. Held,
that's the labor, the government, and the private
OPS
sector.
And all, organized private sector. They held public hearings in different parts of this country. Probably reports are still being collated, but the fact remains that issues about minimum wage will continue to be topical discussions. But the organized private sector has always held the view is that, look, leave us to be able to pay what we can pay. But the average Nigerian worker deserves a living wage. And that's why organized labor has been crying and been screaming that, look, nothing less than 56,000 per month. I think we need to emphasize that for the least paid worker. How feasible that is another thing we need to just keep.
That millions are paid for.
When I mentioned that the minimum wage in 1980 was 100 naira, all of you scream. The minimum wage that was negotiated by Sumonu in 1980 for Nigerian workers was 100 naira. Kano State was paying 102. I think another state was paying 105. They even increased above the federal government. Okay. The joy then was that most of those states, there are some of those states then where there was free education, there was free health, and so many other facilities were made available then. So it cushioned
Today is the opposite. Like Mustafa said, have to provide everything.
So with that 100 naira, Nigerian workers were better off then than what even they are earning now.
Anyway, our governments must have enough to pay. Like Mustafa said, we need to cut the wastages. We come back tomorrow. When we come back tomorrow, more from the president's visit. Is a first-day state visit to the United States, and then follows from today's Labor Day. On behalf of my colleagues, have a good celebration. My name is Amichi Anakwe.
Bust it.